Hi, my favorite students. Today is a different kind of day. We're not at school, we're at home learning. And part of learning at home today is we're going to read a book called In a Mississippi Winter. It is written by Kathy Chase Young and illustrated by Kelly Stanford. Last week, my teacher said that our class would be learning about the seasons. There are 4 of them, I said. Miss Bonnie nodded her head and then showed us some pictures of birds, rain, and pretty flowers. I know all about the spring. In the springtime, we get to put on our short sleeves and help Nana in the yard and play with bugs. She showed us more pictures of some kids in swimsuits playing around a sprinkler. She asked did anyone know what season it was. Of course, I knew that one right away. I told her that it was summer. I said that in the summer, we get to stay up late on the porch and listen to the cicadas singing. We eat watermelon and we go to the big county fair. Then Miss Bonnie thanked me, even though I wasn't finished yet. Next, she held up pictures of pumpkins and leaves that were all different colors, not just green. She explained that during the season of fall, the leaves change to red, yellow, orange, and brown, then fall to the ground. That's how the season gets its nickname. The real name is autumn. I reminded Miss Bonnie about last November when our class went outside and scooped up leaves in our arms. We threw them into the wind and had to shake our heads like puppy dogs to get them all out of our hair. She remembered. After she told us about those 3 seasons, Miss Bonnie showed us a picture that looked sort of strange. She asked which season it was. Sarah said it was Colorado where she was skiing last Christmas. Miss Bonnie helped me explain to Sarah that Colorado is a state, not a season. The picture was almost all white with children covered in big clothes and sitting on things that looked like flat boxes. There was a lady holding ropes that were tied in the front. I had no idea what they were doing. Miss Bonnie waited on an answer for a minute and then told us that the picture was winter. I said it looked like fun, but it didn't look like winter. Miss Bonnie must not have heard me. She kept on talking. She said that in winter children make snowmen and go sledding. In the winter it's very cold and you have to wear lots of clothes and rubber boots to keep warm. I asked where, and Miss Bonnie answered, on your feet. I was very confused. I kept wondering where winter was. I thought that it was wintertime right now. We just went to the camp on New Year's Day. I raised my hand again. Miss Bonnie just took a deep breath and blew out real slow like she does sometimes, and she asked me to pay attention. She said to remember that we were talking about winter. She kept talking about icicles and snow shovels. I listened for another minute, trying real hard to pay attention, but I just had to ask. Do we really have only 3 seasons in Mississippi? She showed all the pictures again. She counted them 1, 2, 3, 4, and then she said spring, summer, fall, and winter. One more time. I was still confused. I asked her, we have winter in Mississippi because that picture doesn't look anything like winter where I live. She got a big grin on her face. I'm not real sure why, but she told me that I was absolutely right. She said the picture doesn't look like Mississippi in the winter, and that she could understand why I was puzzled. She told us that we do have winter time, but we don't often have snow or icicles. We don't wear that many clothes either, I said. Miss Bonnie apologized to the whole class for not explaining very well. She showed us a map and moved her finger along the part of the country that has lots of snow in the winter. That's north of us. We live in the south part of the United States. Our teacher told us that we would have to spend time learning about life in a Mississippi winter. When I got to school the next day, Miss Bonnie had our learning table set with neat things to do. At one table, there were folded pieces of white paper that we could cut and punch holes in to make snowflakes. In a Mississippi winter, we have to make our own snow, she told us. I squeezed the hole punch several times real hard, and when I unfolded the paper, there was a beautiful snowflake. I didn't say so, but I thought mine was the best. After I taped my snowflake to the window, I stood by some friends who were writing their names in trays full of grits. The grits weren't cooked, though. Sam probably would have eaten them all if they were. I found a seat at the table and used my fingers and some craft sticks to make letters and other stuff in the powdery grits. Miss Bonnie said that children sometimes use sticks to write their names and draw pictures in the real snow. She said that we could pretend with grits in a Mississippi winter. We create our own fun. During circle time, Miss Bonnie showed us posters of map of Mississippi. We got to stick wintertime pictures all over it. If we pulled a picture that was fall, spring, or summer, we had to put it in a basket. Some of the pictures that went on the board were of naked trees. That's what we call the trees that didn't have any leaves on them. Some of them were families walking together outside with jackets and caps on. Our class stuck pictures of Christmas parades, basketball games, brown grass, boats hanging up above the water, and a few sunsets. In a Mississippi winter, we can see the sunsets better because the trees don't cover them up so much. I think they're just prettier in the winter. Sarah pulled out some pictures of snowy yards and rooftops. I told her that those should go in the basket because they weren't Mississippi pictures. Miss Bonnie caught them as they fell. Class, these pictures were taken in Mississippi. Wait a second. First we talk about making our own snow, and then she tells us there is snow in Mississippi? Now it must be Miss Bonnie that's confused. You see, she explained, sometimes in a Mississippi winter, it does snow. Just not very often, especially not where we live. But we can put these pictures in North Mississippi where children get out of school every once in a while to enjoy a snow day. Usually the snow isn't deep and doesn't last very long. Most of the time it's gone the next day. The children must enjoy it while they can. Miss Bonnie told us to meet her at the door. It was time for a walk to see firsthand what outdoors Mississippi winter looks like. We put on our jackets and hoods because it was pretty chilly outside. As soon as we left the building, Miss Bonnie asked us to notice something. She took a big breath and blew it out through her mouth. She didn't even seem frustrated. We could see her breath like a little cloud. And we started blowing too. That's not something we can do in the spring. As we stepped, we listened. We heard quiet. We didn't hear the sounds of birds and frogs. We didn't hear many cars going by. It seemed like everything was still. Miss Bonnie told us that even in a Mississippi winter, people like to stay in when it's cold out. Look over there, she pointed. That home has people inside. How do we know? See this house? How do we know there's people inside? Sometimes when it's cold, people light their fireplace and look, you can see the smoke coming out the chimney. I was the first one to see the smoke coming from the chimney, but Sam raised his hand first to answer. As we walked, we crunched along the brown leaves that had covered the ground a few weeks ago. Some of them had small lines of white on the edges. Miss Bonnie showed us the tiny ice crystals called frost. She danced a little as she sang about Jack Frost, whoever he is. We noticed that some trees were empty, but the pine trees had lots of needles on them. I don't think they ever get bare. As we got close to school, we started to get cold. My toes were tingling, and my teeth felt like little popsicles. I saw some beautiful red berries on a bush. A couple of kids in the class picked the berries, but I got Miss Bonnie's attention before they could put them in their mouths. Those berries aren't for eating, they're for looking at, I told them. In a Mississippi winter, we do have pretty holly bushes. Oh, look, they came back into the room. What do you think they're making? Mm. We passed the bushes and rushed back into our classroom. Miss Bonnie giggled as we hung up our jackets, and she told us all to look in the mirror. We looked like a classroom full of Rudolphs. Miss Bonnie knew just how to fix our red noses. She carefully brought a pot of hot water from the coffee maker and mixed some hot chocolate for us. Before I got the chance to ask, she answered, "And yes, I have marshmallows." We felt warm and comfy again. It was almost time to go home, but not until we were reminded to check the forecast for the next day. That's the thing about weather in a Mississippi winter. Sometimes it's cold. It can't seem to make up its mind. But the neat thing is that we never really get bored. As soon as we get tired of the temperature, it changes. I like it that way. As my mom drove me home, I blew as hard as I could on the back window. Mom asked what I learned about in school. "Oh, nothing," I said as I drew snowflakes on the window with my fingers. The pretty snowflakes she drew on the window. So we read a story about what winter is like in Mississippi. Um, what kind of winter weather are we having right now? Do you know? Have you gone outside yet today? Think about what kind of weather we're having right now. And do you remember sometimes we have had winter weather like snow and ice in South Mississippi? Do you remember it ever snowing in Hattiesburg? Do you have memories of playing outside in the snow or maybe have some pictures of you playing in the snow? And what's your favorite part of winter? What's your favorite thing to do in winter? I like the snow when it does snow, because it does snow here occasionally. But my favorite thing in the winter is making a big cup of hot chocolate and staying in my nice warm house and drinking a big cup of hot chocolate. That's my favorite winter thing to do. Well, I hope on today that you are staying nice and warm and inside. And if you do go outside, that you put on a hat and a scarf and maybe some gloves or mittens to keep your hands warm if you want to go outside to play, because it's going to be really, really cold today in Hattiesburg. So I hope you're having fun and staying warm, and I will see you back at school soon.